There is clearly a campaign strategy, and I am saying this to all non-Te Pāti Māori voters and supporters and just ordinary New Zealanders on this. Te Pāti Māori know this. But there's clearly a strategy from Te Pāti Māori to rort the electoral system, not just at the last election, but at this. And with the connivance, it has to be said, of Labour. Well, at the moment it looks like there is connivance, but we will see. And if what Labour do in the next 24, 48 hours is to do with that vacancy, might give us some indication. Here we go. If I switch all Maori voters, as many as I can, to the Maori roll, there are two things that possibly come out of that. One is that I increase the number of Maori seats in New Zealand. Now, it was 4 when I was growing up. It was 4 since, God, what was it, 1867 when they were put together. But now the Maori electoral option has become weaponised. It's become politicised to an undue degree to create more seats for Maori. All right? So we've gone from 4 to 5 and now to 7, and the aim is to get it to 8. Yeah, but it's more than that. And you might say, okay. Then it is this. Maori voters are probably smarter, I have to say, than non-Maori voters. They certainly were at the last election, 2023, because they did something that MMP allows them to do, but it effectively ends up as a political or electoral rort. You see, what they did was they voted for Te Pāti Māori constituency MPs, right? But they then took their party vote and gave it to the Labour Party. Now, essentially, they had 2 votes for 1. Now, it's not that the Labour National Party can come with clean hands to this issue, because they've been doing a deal with ACT and David Seymour for what? Oh, God, almost 20 years. But in actual fact, it hasn't been revolutionised, politicised, given a carburettor, or V8, in actual fact, maybe a V12 engine, like the Pāti Māori are giving this particular rort. So what they've done, is what you're going to end up with, potentially, is not 120 MPs, which is what MMP is all designed to do, but we've already got an overhang of 3 extra MPs, and the aim of the Te Pāti Māori is very simple, to end up with an extra 4 or extra 5 overhang. Now, it skews MMP. It distorts the system, which is meant to be strict proportionality. And that was the whole thing that we voted for when we voted for MMP, and then we confirmed our decision in terms of a mixed member proportional system. It's meant to be fair. That's the whole point of it. But Te Pāti Māori, and the way in which the Māori seats fell last time, and the voting patterns of activist Māori in particular, skewed that. It's destroyed the proportionality of Parliament. But the aim of this electoral campaign is to destroy it even further. Now, unfortunately for Te Pāti Māori, I saw a video about a week ago, and I think it was, or 2 weeks ago, and it was at a table sitting were Rauri Waititi, John Tamahiri, and Willie Jackson. And straying over to them was Māori broadcaster and now activist, it has to be said, Dale Husband, I think his name is, made his name with sports broadcasting initially, but anyhow, he is a Māori media broadcaster now. And he just sort of wanders over to them and talks to the bros and basically says, how are you going? And at one point, John Tamahiri, because John Tamahiri does not have an off button. There isn't a filter with John. And so he says things that really he shouldn't say. Essentially gave the game away, jokingly but seriously, by saying that the real reason that they were sitting down with Willie Jackson was to persuade Labour not to put up candidates in the Māori seats. Now the deal, and that's what Tamahiri told Husband. Now it was only meant for a Māori audience. People like me weren't meant to see it, and certainly, for God's sake, the mainstream media haven't. But the aim and ambit is obvious here, that if you end up with 7 or 8 seats that belong to Te Pāti Māori, and then the list vote of those Māori is encouraged to go to Labour, what do you end up doing? You end up sabotaging, rorting, screwing, and forever defiling, it has to be said, the proportional system that we intended to be fair and equitable, and ironically, when it was put into place, was meant to end up with more Maori in Parliament. Well, we've ended up with more Maori in Parliament than the history of New Zealand, obviously. It is disproportionately of Maori descent, this current Parliament, and here's Te Pāti Māori seeking to continue that rort into the future by their campaign, commissioned ironically by the Whānau Ora Commissioning Agency, run ironically by serious leaderships and those connected with Te Pāti Māori, and using your and my money, taxpayers' money, to make sure that the rort is promoted, marketed, and propagandised to a whole new series of Maori voters or voters of Maori descent. It's extraordinary, really, but I'm just sounding the alarm that the next election, the fix is already in. There is an intent to further corrupt the MMP system and to essentially make sure that if you are Maori, you'll have 2 votes where everybody else essentially has 1. You are going to skew Parliament by having more Maori MPs than Te Pāti Māori deserve or require under a proportional system. They might get 7 or 8 when really their numbers might only justify 4 or 3. And on the other hand, Labour don't lose from this. We might not have the Maori seats, but hey, we've ended up with all those party list votes as well. The fix is in, and when I see Willie Jackson, Rari Waititi, John Tamahiri getting together and openly admitting that they are trying to get Labour not to put up any candidates for any of the Maori seats next time, you can see what the quid pro quo is. The systematic rorting of an electoral system that was meant to deliver, ironically, equity and fairness, including to supposedly marginalised communities of Maori, who are far from marginalised now, but in actual fact, as I say, they've got the V12 engine and it's running. Those are my thoughts this morning. What are yours?